You're standing at the edge of the trees when you hear it. Hooves, fast, coming straight at you. A doe breaks into the open, and every instinct in her body is screaming the same word: run. She is built from the ground up to run from you. Your face is the one her whole species learned to fear. Instead, she stops. She lowers her head, and she pushes something small and shaking across the dirt toward your feet. Her fawn. Legs folded under it, barely able to stand. Then she steps back, and she waits. Think about what that just cost her. For 300,000 years, your kind was the most dangerous thing in any forest, the shape animals are born knowing to flee. And this mother just handed you the one life she's wired to protect with her own. She isn't tame. She isn't confused. She ran the math, and somehow you came out as the safest option left. The question is why? And the answer is going to cost you something to hear. Here's something that shouldn't be possible. In a field in Canada, researchers hid a speaker in the tall grass and played a recording. The cry of a human baby. Not a fawn, a human infant in distress. And the deer came. Wild mule deer and white-tailed deer walked toward the sound, searching, the same way they'd search for their own lost young. Biologist Susan Lingle ran that exact experiment in 2014, published it in the American Naturalist. She played the distress cries of baby seals, marmots, bats, cats, humans, species separated from deer by 60 million years of evolution. And as long as the pitch landed in the right range, the mothers responded like the cry was one of their own. A deer does not know what a human baby is. It has never met one, and it comes anyway. So maybe the answer is simple. Maybe it is just biology, some ancient alarm buried so deep in every mammal that a mother can't tell whose baby is screaming, only that a baby is. Maybe animals bring us their young because underneath the fur and the fear, something in them recognizes something in us. Hold that thought, because it's about to fall apart. Go back to your doe. Feel what she's doing before she moves. She's watching your hands. Are they slow or sharp? She's reading the line of your shoulders, whether you're turned toward her or squared up like a threat. She's pulling your scent out of the air and running it against every human she's ever cataloged. Her heart is going like a drum. Every nerve she has is voting to bolt, and she overrides all of it. She chooses the one direction her body was built never to choose, toward you. But here's the crack in the easy answer. If this were just biology, just some shared mammal wiring, then every deer would do it. Every doe would bring you her fawn. Every wild thing would walk up to any person, anywhere. They don't. Walk into almost any forest on Earth, and the animals vanish before you finish your first step. The overwhelming majority of them see a human and do the same thing, the thing 300,000 years taught them. They run. The doe who stays is the rare exception, not the rule. So it isn't about humans, not humans in general. It's about you, specifically. And to understand why one animal walks toward the exact person another animal flees, you have to look at what these creatures are actually doing when they look at a human face, because some of them are keeping records. In 2006, a wildlife biologist named John Marzluff put on a rubber mask, a caveman face, walked onto the University of Washington campus, and trapped a handful of wild crows. Banded them, released them. Nothing cruel, just a few frightening minutes. Then he took the mask off and walked away a normal man. Here's what he found, and it's published in the journal Animal Behavior. For years afterward, whenever anyone wore that same caveman mask across campus, the crows came screaming. They dove, they mobbed. Different people underneath didn't matter. The crows weren't reacting to a body or clothes or a voice. They were reacting to a face, a specific face they had filed years earlier under one word: dangerous. Crows can hold that file for at least 2.5 years, some far longer. Now flip it. The same system that files an enemy files a friend. The crow that remembers the face that hurt it also remembers the face that fed it, and it keeps that file just as long. So when an animal looks at you, it isn't seeing a human. That's the mistake we make about ourselves, that we're all one blurred, dangerous category to the wild. We're not. To an animal with a memory like this, you are a file. Opened the first time it ever saw you, updated every time since. Which is why stories like this keep happening. A man in the American countryside describes a white-tailed deer showing up in his yard in broad daylight, running in tight circles, bolting to the tree line and back again and again, until he and his father finally followed her. She led them a few hundred yards to her fawn, tangled in a wire fence, half strangled. They worked it free. She stood there the whole time and let them. Then she lay down beside her fawn while they backed away. That doe didn't gamble on humanity. She'd already decided something about those men on that land, probably long before that afternoon. She had a file, and when the worst moment came, she opened it and made a call. And Marzluff found one more thing that matters here. When his team put crows inside brain scanners and showed them the dangerous face, the region that lit up was the crow's version of the amygdala, the fear center. Not cold calculation. Feeling. So this is memory with emotion attached. A face that means something. But recognizing a safe face is one thing. Handing over your newborn is another entirely. You can trust that someone won't hurt you and still never trust them with your child. So how does a wild animal cross that last enormous gap? The answer is stranger than the memory. Because the animal deciding to trust you might never have met you at all. Go back to those crows for one more twist. The one Marzluff published in 2011 in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B. Years into the experiment, crows were still mobbing the dangerous mask. But now, the mob was full of crows that had never been trapped. Young birds. Birds that weren't even hatched when the original crime happened. They screamed at that face with the same fury as the ones who'd lived it. They'd inherited the grudge. Not in their genes, in their culture. A parent scolds the mask, the fledgling watches, and the file gets copied. One crow's memory becomes the whole flock's knowledge, and then the next generations, passed down like a story told around a fire. Now think about what that means, sitting on the other side of it. If a grudge can be inherited, so can trust. The same channel that carries "stay away from that face" can carry that one is safe. And an animal doesn't have to have met you personally to have an opinion about you. It can inherit one. That trembling fawn at your feet may be looking up at you through its mother's memory, watching how she stands near you, learning in real time that your face belongs in the safe column, before it's old enough to understand what a human even is. You're not being judged by one animal. You're being judged by a lineage. Sit with how strange that is. Something you did, a bowl of food left out on a hard winter, a slow hand that didn't grab, a moment years ago you've completely forgotten, can still be echoing right now inside an animal that was never there. A verdict on you, carried forward by creatures you'll never meet, arriving at a decision you'll never see them make. We think of our reputation as a human thing, something that lives in other people's heads. It doesn't. Out there, in the tree line, there are other ledgers, and your name is written in some of them. And this is the part where the story wants to end. It's warm. It's flattering. It practically writes itself. The animals remember us. They teach their children we're safe. They hand us their babies because, across all these years, we earned it. That's the conclusion almost everyone reaches. It's also where almost everyone is wrong. So let's say it out loud, the ending everyone wants. Animals remember us. They teach their young we're safe. And after 10,000 years of a rocky, bloody, complicated relationship, a few of them have decided we're worth the risk. That despite everything, we earned their trust. The doe hands you her fawn because you, and people like you, passed the test. It's a beautiful ending. It feels true. It makes you the hero of the story. It's also mostly wrong. And to see why, you have to notice the one thing that story quietly leaves out. You've seen the videos. The dolphin nudging its tangled calf to the boat. The cat parading kittens onto the porch. The doe at your feet. They go viral because they're miraculous. But stop and ask the question nobody asks. How many animals didn't? For every deer that walked toward a human, there are 10,000 that ran. For every dolphin that approached a boat, a whole ocean of them dove and vanished. You never see those. Nobody films the animal that flees. There's no video, no story, no moment. The gentle encounters survive in our feeds precisely because they're the rare ones. We're staring at the handful that beat the odds and concluding the odds don't exist. This is a trap old enough to have a name. In the war, engineers studied the planes that came back full of bullet holes and almost armored the wrong parts, until someone realized the planes that got hit where it mattered never came back to be studied at all. The survivors lie to you, not on purpose, just by being the only ones left to look at. The trusting animals are the planes that made it home, and we've been reading them as proof of who we are. So look at your doe again. Really look. Her ribs are heaving. Her eyes are rolling white at the edges. Every muscle is still screaming, run. Does that look like an animal that decided you're wonderful? Or an animal that ran out of options? There's a colder read on this whole thing, and it's more honest. Sometimes the animal that comes to you isn't choosing you at all. It's a mother with a predator closing in, a flooding den, a wound she can't fix, and she scans everything around her and lands on the one large shape that isn't actively trying to kill her. That's not a vote of confidence. It's the absence of a worse alternative. She didn't come to you because you're safe. She came because everything else was worse. And that is a very different, very heavy thing to be. But here's what makes even that remarkable. And this is the part the cold read misses too. Even in pure desperation, her brain still had to run a calculation that, by every rule of nature, we don't deserve. Weigh the apex predator against certain death, and land on the predator. For that math to even be possible, we had to have been logged over generations as something other than pure threat. The most dangerous animal on Earth filed, somehow, under last resort instead of no resort. That's not proof we're good. It's proof of something stranger. We became the thing you run to when running away has stopped working. And if that lands a little too close, it should, because you already know this feeling from the other side. You have been the safest option left for someone. A kid who climbed into your bed at 3 a.m. because the dark got too big. A friend who called you, not because you had answers, but because you were the one door that wasn't locked. Someone who trusted you with the one thing they could not afford to lose at the exact moment they had no one better to give it to. That's what real trust almost always is. Not a medal you're handed for being wonderful. It's someone, cornered, deciding you're the least dangerous option in a bad night, and placing the fragile thing in your hands anyway. And here's the part that should keep you up a little. Most of the time, we never even feel the weight of it. The doe walks back into the trees. The kid falls asleep. The friend hangs up. And we go on, never quite realizing that for one moment, we were the whole world's last line of defense, and someone bet everything that we'd hold. If you're still here, if any of this is landing, then you're probably the kind of person who does stop when something small and frightened needs help. That's who this channel is for. Subscribe and stay a while. There's more of this coming, and I want to hear yours. Has an animal ever trusted you like that? Walked up, stayed, brought you something it shouldn't have? Tell me what it brought you and where. I read these, because in the end, that doe told you the truth about yourself. You just have to be willing to hear it. She didn't come to you because you're kind. She came because she ran the math, and every other door led somewhere worse. That's what trust really is. Not proof that you're good, proof that someone had no one better left and chose you anyway. And most of the time, we never even feel the weight of what we're handed.